Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football podcast. I'm Joe Devine.
I don't like this energy at all.
And I'm delighted to be joined today.
I'm not delighted.
By Jon Mackenzie.
Hello.
Jon Mackenzie. That's how
That's
I like
right.
to. That's what I like
they
to call
me
him.
in Uzbekistan.
Jon Mackenzie. Also, we were joined today by a real treat for us to be joined by a real professional journalist. He's a great guy, one of the top journalists out there, and also he's busy and important, which is why he's no longer here.
At the beginning.
Yeah. It's interesting how it works, isn't it? It's Sebastian Stafford-Bloor who joins us, I would say, for 65% of the episode, Steve?
Yeah, a bit more.
Yeah, let's see what gets cut out of what he said. Maybe it'll be less, If it's less than 65%, it's because he did a bad job.
He's not the only person to be excluded in this episode as well, so...
That's true. We exclude all of the ordinary people who can't understand the simple terminology of the tactico. We talk about that a little bit later. But here's other things that come up, okay? Tottenham Hotspur, the pride of N17, and as we discover, parts of N15.
But not E17.
Or SW17. Definitely not SW17, absolutely not. Have had a strong start in terms of results, but do terrible numbers underlie this early success?
Is that Hank?
Of course it is.
Is that Hankelese?
Is it Hankelese? It is. Hankelese has written that down. He's also written this. Why pissing on things except a toilet is bad. Who wants to piss on a toilet, Steve?
I suppose in is absolutely what...
You want to do it in the toilet.
Fair.
Yeah, but you can't say why pissing in things except a toilet is bad, because that brings to mind something got cut. Oh, and what would you expect, Steve, pushing me in such a filthy direction so early in the podcast? I'm only a human being. Now, I was quite poetic today, wasn't I, John? Apparently so. I'm not sure. Steve says I was, but also slightly disturbing when describing the quivering lip of a frozen foal. I forgot about that. That was good fun. Also, we talk about what we mean when we say football managers need to, quote, evolve. Is it like a dinosaur? Just a spoiler, it's not like a dinosaur. A little bit later on, we talk about Bayern's imperious start to the Bundesliga season and a little bit of Borussia Dortmund. And then Seb leaves, and John gets all meta and tactico, as we discussed. But Steve and I bring him to task, don't we, Steve?
Yes.
That's right. And then it turns out Steve said a smart thing at lunch the other day that I attributed to someone
Something
else.
got cut.
Anyway, that's today's episode. Hope you have a great time. Where else to begin, of course, than with Tottenham Hotspur? Oh, what a thrill. What a thrill it is to just say Tottenham and leave it hanging. You're not supposed to do that,
Unless you're talking about the place.
Well, no, even then
really?
they've said please call it N17. What? No, not N17. That's Is it N17?
I think it is.
I mean, if it is, I just pulled that out of my arse. That's quite incredible to get the postcode.
I think that's called
the area
memory.
code.
I think that is
memory.
Yeah.
Well, mine's famously bad.
True.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about Tottenham for a little bit. Hotspur. Now we were planning to talk about them for a couple of reasons. But then there was some exclusive breaking news that broke. It's not exclusive. This is the third time we're doing the intro. Don't worry about it. That it was funny. We lost it, unfortunately. It wasn't. It wasn't funny.
Yeah.
I think it was okay. It was better than nothing.
Yeah, you have to say something on a podcast, don't you?
I'll say it like a normal podcast host now, and then you tell me afterwards whether that was better or worse. Okay.
Are you going to speak Hankels now? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, he hasn't written this because it's so fresh.
So fresh.
It's pulsing.
Imagine
fresh.
how many paragraphs he would have written about this.
It's several. I can say several. Let me do it like a normal podcast host, okay? Now, just before we were about to start talking about Tottenham Hotspur, the Spurs, some fresh news broke, Seb Stafford-Bloor, didn't it, that you brought to my attention. Well, what is that news, Seb?
I brought your attention. I didn't break the news. Like I want to distinguish between those two things. I said, "Look, Joe, this story has just happened."
You broke it to me.
I broke it to you. I told you about it, and that was that Fabio Paratici has returned to Tottenham. He's going to be the joint sporting director with Johan Lange, who's been promoted into this new double role.
Right,
seems quite weird.
Nice.
Seems strange because Paratici is more of a deals person. Langer is very data-led. Not sure how that's going to work.
I mean, in some ways, it sounds like a match made in heaven. They both represent like their qualities.
But
in
if they both have joint decision-making power, how's that going to work when they disagree? I think would be my question. It's I can't think of many other situations where. Can't think of many other clubs who've employed that sort of dynamic. Really,
maybe Chelsea.
Maybe Chelsea.
Yeah, okay, it's kind of strange. I mean, I wouldn't like to share my job. I think I'd find that a little challenging. What about you, John?
What do you mean share my job?
I'm just making a joke. You kind of do share your job.
I hate it. Is that the right answer? No, that was the wrong answer. I really like it.
Just remind me, Paratici, he left, or he got banned, right, for a while.
He was banned for a while.
Right. Why?
He was banned for 30 months.
What was he banned for? His
involvement in that Juventus scandal. Do you remember it? We did a Tifo video about it.
I know. That doesn't mean I remember it, unfortunately.
You narrated it.
I narrated it, but I do the voiceovers in the middle of the night, as you know, Seb. And then by the morning, I have no idea what we're releasing
He's already
anymore.
remembered N17. I think that's enough remembering.
N17. Was that in this take?
Yeah.
Oh, we saved the N17 bit. Yes. Get in. All right. Well, that's exciting. I mean, it's a most recent change, we should say, of a number of changes that have happened at Spurs recently. Lest we forget Daniel Levy's departure after a quarter century. Also, there were some more sort of significant additions and changes and replacements to the board, the senior staff, the executive level, whatever. Spurs, you could argue, almost unrecognisable now. Also, with Thomas Frank in charge in the manager's seat. It's been a summer of upheaval, almost unrecognisable, aren't they, John?
Yes, they are. Did you have a question that was attached to this, or
it was almost unrecognisable, aren't they, John?
Do you want me to just talk about the football side of things?
It's up to you. Where do you want to go?
Well, as Steve's written down here, I can't read because he's got his cursor on the page. So
I'll read it for you.
Thanks.
The Thomas Frank Tottenham Hotspur era has, in terms of results, gotten off to a strong start. It says gotten.
This is classic Hankels. This is.
They're third in the Premier League, John, only 2 points off top. And they are through to the next round of the League Cup and have 4 points out of a possible 6 points in the Champions League. Again, that's Steve Hankey. I continue to read Steve Hankey. But is this strong start sustainable, or will some of last season's flaws materialise as the season develops? Now, I think what Steve Hankey's referring to there is that Spurs are doing really well, but they have shockingly bad underlying numbers, don't they? Which was a surprise to me. I thought they were fixed permanently, but perhaps not.
Yeah, I mean, the underlying numbers are the underlying numbers, and I'm not going to sit here and piss on the chips of the Spurs fans who are happy that they're in third place.
I'd rather you didn't piss on anything. I'm sat quite close to you.
Wouldn't like...
We have enough technical issues as it is. Can you not?
That's true.
I can't imagine you enjoying anyone pissing on chips because you would like to eat them.
Well, I wouldn't be able to eat the chips if someone had pissed on them.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, the underlying numbers put Spurs very much like mid-table. So, I mean, by most metrics, if you look at the expected goal difference, they're around 13th. If you look at Understat and Opta's expected points model, they're around 13th. And I think, this was the same sort of level that they were last season under Postecoglou.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the results, so I've just gone through the results this morning of the games where we have the underlying numbers. There's only been 2 games where they've actually won on expected goals. So that's the Burnley game and the West Ham game. 2 teams who are probably going to be in the relegation battle. So,
right.
On the one hand, there's all these caveats we can throw at that. We can say, new coach, lots of new players, will take time, etc. But these things do matter, and I think a lot of fans will say, well, there's only one thing that matters, and that's the table, and that's true, and that's why you can overperform for long stretches, and at some point you kind of shrug and say, fine, we overperformed. I guess the question is, how long do you overperform for in those conditions? And it's hard to know exactly how you answer that one. But I was thinking, I mean, the last game they played, they played against Leeds, away at Leeds. Leeds put up more like 3 times as much expected goals than they did, but they ended up losing 2-1 Leeds. So if the result had gone the way that, more often than not you would have expected it to go, how different would the conversation that we'd be having now? Because the previous 2 games, they drew with Bodo Glimt. They had to come back in that game. They drew with Wolves. They had to come back in that game with the late winner in that one. If they'd have drawn or lost to Leeds, I think we'd be having a very different. I think there'd be a very sort of different register to this conversation we're having right now. And I guess that's the big question that I have is, at what point do we see that regression? Do we see that regression? I'm just trying to think of. I mean, a good example of this is, so in terms of the expected points, Understat has them. I think Opta has them about 6 points more than you'd expect on the basis of their performances, which is where Liverpool were at before they've just gone on their run of like 3 losses. So these are the sorts of situations where you can say, well, there's nothing that you shouldn't worry too much about the underlying numbers, but there are very clear examples that if you are performing below the level of your results, there is the risk that this can happen. So yeah, I do think that there are big issues with Spurs. The caveat that Spurs fans often give is, well, it's his early in Frank's time. We need to wait for him to evolve or whatever. And I think that's an interesting topic of conversation, like the potential evolution of Thomas Frank's Spurs.
I mean, Seb, have you seen much of them so far this season? Do you feel like they're very changed?
I think some of the things have changed. I still think they have big issues around chance creation. And obviously, they lost at home to Bournemouth. They looked for a long time like they're going to lose at home to Wolves. And I think whilst a lot of what they do is fundamentally sound, they miss, prior to the transfer window closing and Javi Simon signing, they really miss Dejan Kulusevski and James Maddison. Maddison might not play again this season, or if he does, it'll be in the spring. Kulusevski maybe end of the year. 2 huge misses. Simons was bought because he's a chance creator, a little bit of a maverick. He's quite an impulsive, risk-taking footballer, which is exactly what they need. But then you have that problem of new player in the Premier League, has to adjust to his new teammates, has to adjust to his new surroundings. He's been a little bit hit and miss, which is not a criticism. It's exactly what I'd have expected to see. He's had good moments and bad, and he'll need a little bit of a grace period there. But I think there's some good things. I think there's a little bit more dexterity to the side. I think certainly João Palhinha coming in, he's become this sort of weird culture war in social media land, because he's not a particularly progressive passer. He's not hugely technical footballer with the ball.
What's the
then I would argue,
just that what people think he's good, people think he's bad?
Yeah, I think most people think that as a footballer in isolation, he's a good player. But I think it's more that, like, if you have a player whose main strengths lie without the ball and who's really more of a kind of a lateral passer, then that limits what you can do in midfield. Right. And I agree with that, but I would also say that that's probably true for teams that are better than Tottenham. And that if you're in Tottenham's position, which, yes, they finished 17th in the Premier League last season, even though they won the Europa League, I think you need to carry a player like that. And I think even through this early stretch of games, having Palhinha's style of football, combative nature of his work without the ball, his ability to tackle, retrieve possession, kind of already paid dividends. So there are things I like, but there are, I think one of the biggest problems, and it's interesting that we talk about the sporting directors. I think they've got a big problem at centre forward, because firstly, I mean, they have that issue at number 10, so affecting chance creation. But then also they're trying to work in Richarlison, who can be a bit brittle. And I've never really bought as a number 9. I know he's played there for Brazil, he's played there for Tottenham, and at times for Everton. I've always thought he's a sort of wide forward, inside wide forward. Dom Solanke was signed for a lot of money last season for a good reason. He's got a much stronger all-round game, better at bringing players into the game around him. He's injured. He's had a little operation. Not sure when he's back. Randall Kolo Muani suffered a dead leg 3 or 4 weeks ago. He played a little bit over the international break. There was some sort of behind closed doors friendly that he got some time in, but he'll need an adjustment. And I think that side of the team needs a lot of work.
It's a lot of injuries and like I don't know, inconsistencies ahead of with a new coach starting, right?
Yeah, and I think also, Joe, like if you're a new coach, if you walk into a team that already has a sort of a bedrock of chemistry, terrific. And there are certain areas at Tottenham where that's true. I think the centre-back pairing is good. Van der Ven and Romero is strong. I like a lot of what they're able to do. It's a good combination. Balance of attributes is nice. They're good at fullback. Got decent resources in midfield. I think Pap Sarr is developing to a really, really good number 8, and arguably their most important midfielder. But until you have that centerpiece of your attack, until you're able to kind of make it cohesive and allowed to create chances, you're going to have this problem at home against weaker opposition, and you're going to be a little bit vulnerable to going behind in games, even when you're facing Bodo Glimt, for instance.
Yeah.
So
plus, it feels like Son's departure can't be underestimated as well, because he was there for so long. He was such a big part of the team. Obviously, it was only a year after Harry Kane left. That's like Spurs' 2 biggest players in output, but also in presumably in personality, or like players 100%. Being emblematic of the team. That's kind of a culture shift in and of itself, even if the manager hadn't changed.
Absolutely, because you're trying to build a kind of a new technical definition under a new coach, but you're also, the personality of your team has changed and your leadership structures have changed, and you've got a new captain and Christian Romero. So like you have all of these problems, and then you've taken so many goals and assists or goal involvements out of this side over the last 3 or 4 years that the entire attacking direction has changed. The way they try and create chances has changed. And so it feels like that every game, I agree with a lot of the caveats that John described, and not quite as I felt like the Leeds performance wasn't quite as bad as XG may have described it as being. I thought they were decent. I think Mohamed Kudus is one of the better signings of the season. He's had a couple of excellent games. It's just that it's just going to take some time. And the difficulty here is that while we're going through this interim period, it's very difficult to know who can be judged. The players, the coach, the combination and the relationship between the two, and I just don't think we're anywhere near being able to do that yet.
Well, you get this funny thing at this stage of the season, don't you, with the team you don't really understand or know yet, where if they don't pick up the wins, people start to talk about them, panic, changes may be needed, whatever. Spurs have evaded that this season so far, but they are on the cusp of doing too well. Do you know what I mean? Like they're third currently. There's been the big international break, a time where people naturally take a pause and pause for reflection and think, well, Spurs are third. They're fixed. They're doing well. And so when they do start to fall off, if they do, suddenly it feels like more disappointing because the expectations may have shifted. We said at the beginning of the season, when Thomas Frank was announced as the Spurs manager, that there was maybe an expectation for him to evolve in some ways as a coach. But it's interesting watching them so far this season. What does that really mean, John? Like, what are we expecting him to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the conversations about Frank are very results biased in certain ways, and I think they're
third. Did you know?
Yeah. And
good.
I think also there's expectations about Thomas Frank that people just sort of buy into because of perception rather than reality. So like a good example of that would be that everyone just assumes that Thomas Frank is a good defensive manager. And I think that's done largely because, I mean, in terms of, again, to go back to the underlyings, which, again, I'm not someone who sits here looking at the underlyings and says, I think this is knock down, drag out argument for why this is the reality. He's good or bad. But I watch the games. And I see this, and then the numbers back that up. Right. I start thinking, there's definitely something going on here. I think if I watch the games, thinking, this is a team who, they've just been a bit unlucky in a few games, and eventually you would expect the numbers to start stabilizing. That's a different thing. But with Frank, what we've got, you've got a coach now who's taken this Spurs team who have an incredible attacking lineup, and they're putting up, lower mid-table attacking numbers. And you think, okay, that's fine because he's a good defensive manager. But then you look at the underlying defensive numbers and they're mid-table as well. So essentially the way that I view it is you bring in a manager who you claim is sort of going to turn them around from a defensive point of view. Yes, he's got them defending better than Postecoglou, but I don't think that's a huge feather in his bow. Is that what you say? Feather in his
cap, I think.
What do you say about bows?
What's an arrow in the quiver?
Arrow in the quiver. Yeah.
A string to your bow?
A string to the bow.
A string to the bow.
A quiver in the lip of a frozen foal. That sort of thing. Is that what
John,
you
can I jump in and be interrupting and annoying?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, of course.
Well, no, because I was just going to say you were talking about the attack, but the attack isn't really in place. Like there's no real holdovers from the attack that was available last season. Kulusevski injured, Maddison injured. Son sold, Solanke injured. And so like Kudus is new. Tell is kind of new because he played so little last season. Simons is new. Richarlison is Richarlison, but again, played so little over the last couple of years because of injury that so that side of the team is almost contextless.
Yeah. It does sound like mid-table numbers when you put it that way, right?
Yeah, like I'm not unhappy with that. Like I don't disagree with any of this. It's just like I think there's this. I think fans. I think there's always this interesting disagreement between like fans and analysts, where you have the underlying numbers which are all accurate and fair, and I nothing that's been said here is kind of been has differed from what I've seen in the game so far. But it's also a lot of fans will tell you, good, hope we get hammered on expected goals and we still win. It's the best kind of win, especially away from home when you get smashed, but you just nick a goal at the end. Because I think it's just an emotional difference. And I don't think any Tottenham fan you would speak to would say they're going to finish third at the end of the season. I don't think that's realistic at all.
Sure.
But it's like, it feels like it's an entirely new project. Does that make sense?
You've got Stafford-Bloor on the warpath, John. Look what you've done.
And
you know,
that's
before when he said that sometimes there's a disagreement between fans and I was just waiting for him to say and Jon Mackenzie.
Yeah, and look,
what's your rebuttal? Your retort?
I mean, I totally understand that, and you know, I
wouldn't step to the dispatch box right now.
and my rejoinder would never be you should care about the underlying numbers as a fan, like game to game, because like you say, who cares? You get a win, you get a win, and that's great. And you know, it's great to get wins above what you expect, especially early in the season, because it buys you time as a coach, and momentum matters. And it's, you know, the players will benefit from everyone thinking that the club is great.
There's been no sniff of Frank in trouble.
Sure. I guess in response, and you're totally correct that, you know, this is it's an early stage manager with early stage players in the attacking areas, so you give them time. But I guess I would push back by saying, well, in terms of what's happening here, the issue is not necessarily with the attacking players, because the attacking players are finishing their expected goals at like basically 100% over performance. So they've got around just over 7 and they've scored 14, right? So that's a team who are forwards who are scoring way more than you might expect them to do. So it could be the case that we see, you know, an improvement in terms of the underlying numbers, but then the actual numbers dropping down, and that representing a drop-off for Spurs as well. So yeah, I think the point I'm sort of trying to make is, if it could be the case that the numbers pick up and they start doing better, which is what everyone hopes for, and I guess and if that happens, right, fine. You know, I'm not claiming that this is Thomas Frank. This is not Thomas Frank at all times.
Why is it that you hate Thomas Frank?
Why do you hate
so
Thomas
much?
Frank?
So I guess what I
He's
would
got great hair. Is that why? Is that why, John? It's the hair, isn't it?
Anyone who can grow hair, I just dislike.
You've got to move past it. Like, I've done it. Like, I'm okay with it. He's got a wonderful head of hair.
I see it just as I just think you've let your bald brethren down, Seb. I think you should stand in solidarity with me on this one.
You see, I was tempted 2 minutes ago to make a joke about how it was 2 of the great bald minds stepping toe to toe,
clashing.
No, I won't raise it, but you've raised it yourself.
We're allowed to.
Yeah, but
we own.
It's our joke. It's not your joke.
Yeah, exactly.
You've also got a disgustingly good head of hair. So why don't you off?
It's thinning, you know.
It's not.
It is thinning. I look in the mirror, Seb, I see it thinning. I say it's my wife, and she says it's not thinning, and I say, "Begone, woman! It's thinning." But my hair, I mean, my body's growing. Maybe that's it. My head's getting bigger, but I'm not adding hair. So
maybe it's just context. Yeah, absolutely.
It could be that. Yeah, or it could be that I've moved house and there's a much brighter light in front of the mirror now. So I'm just sort of, okay, is it thinning?
I think the context is important. Like, that's why you surround yourself with people like me and Seb, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So that I feel like I'm hairier.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, why'd you hate Thomas Frank?
So I guess in response to, I have caveated a lot, but I do.
You have no more caveat.
No more caveats. So I'm going to talk now about why I am maybe towards the cooler end of the spectrum with Thomas Frank. And a lot of that is from a tactical point of view.
And you mean colder, you don't mean like sweet,
Cooler.
more sweet.
Yeah, as in,
dope.
The fond.
Yeah, I'm... Oh, dear.
Also great.
No wonder he hasn't got any hair. Seb lost his hair 50 years ago. Right, why are you cold on Frank?
So for example, a lot of the issues that I see with Spurs, I would say, are more tactical rather than necessarily like personnel based. And I think what we get with Frank is essentially Brentford now is Brentford, but with good players, and that's carried him through. Like Mohamed Kudus, an incredible difference maker, essentially in that respect, and that's sort of tided them over so far. And maybe that'll be enough for them to finish in a solid position and get the European spots somehow. I would be surprised if it consistently got them Europe playing this way. But the issues that I see are, and these aren't exactly profound issues. This is what everyone's talking about. One of them is ball progression, because it seems as though Frank particularly wants to progress the ball in the wide areas, and does so in a way that because I think there's a lot of teams who do progress the ball in wide areas. Like I think Arsenal are a good example of a team who predominantly have been progressing the ball in wide areas. It's probably changing a bit this season. But the way that they do that is that they are I think they play Polinia, they play Bentancur in the middle. So you're getting no central progression through your pivots, really. So you have to get that progression from the back line, essentially. It's fine, you've got Porro, you've got Romero, but two very good ball progressors. But because they tend to progress in the wide areas, then they optimize for progressing in the wide areas, which means they empty out the middle and essentially end up playing sort of channel balls with, I guess, overloads in those channels in a bid to, if you don't win the first ball, you win the second ball. And then when you do win the ball, you end up in these scenarios where they are swinging crosses in a lot. So I think Spurs are one of the highest cross producers in the Premier League this season under Frank. And I just see it as not a particularly sustainable way of being a good football team, which is fine. It's early. He's doing what he knows. And
it's working right now. So maybe when it stops working, he'll iterate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the question then becomes, well, and fans always say this all the time, my manager will evolve. I just think there's so few managers who really demonstrate that ability to evolve in that kind of way.
Sure.
And so the worry for me is that what we've seen from Thomas Frank so far is just Brentford, but with better players, which is still going to be good. The question is, where does that plateau out? Does it plateau out at a level where you're like, okay, we are challenging for Champions League spots, which may be the case. Or does it plateau out 8th, 7th? And at what point does that become a problem for a club like Spurs?
I wonder, though, like in the case of managers, coaches evolving or not, sometimes when you see them move from elite team to elite team, let's say I was the manager of PSG and I win the Champions League.
I already don't like this.
You don't like this analogy?
And then it requires certain mental leaps that I'm struggling.
And then I go to Arsenal. Oh, I should pick an elite team. Then I go to Man City. And
is this literally just an Arsenal joke?
It's just to upset Steve.
Okay.
No, and then I play, the same type of football. And it's not working. And I go, but I just did it at PSG, where that's another elite team. I know it works. They've got good players. It's your fault. I'm sticking with it. Whereas I go from Brentford to Spurs, it is a step up, and that it is more of an obvious change in your environment. Inevitably, you would start, like you do any new job, you start doing kind of the same thing you were doing at the end of your last job, and then you are impacted and changed by the environment as you go. One of the things that gives me some faith, maybe more faith in Thomas Frank than lots of other managers, is that he does seem to be more of an adaptable coach. Then he's certainly not an ideologue, right? He's not someone that we know to stick entirely to their plan in the same way that Postecoglou
What do we mean? Can we dig into that? What do we mean by him being adaptable?
I mean that he has made changes to his team on the basis of the league that they're playing in, the context and the opposition. And I've seen Brentford, what they do, change over time. Whereas we're having the same conversation about Ruben Amorim week in, week out, where he says he doesn't want to change anything. Postecoglou is trying to do the same thing at Forest that he was doing at Tottenham. And, who the hell knows? I think Thomas Frank certainly doesn't seem to be someone who lives or dies by the sword of his own ideas, or at the very least, he doesn't talk about doing that in press conferences. He doesn't label himself as someone who is unchanging. So I don't know. I mean, Seb, do you look at Thomas Frank and think he has the capacity to evolve more so than other coaches, or am I just sort of living in a fever dream, pipe dream, fever pitch, pipe and dream?
You're living in all of those. I wouldn't use a word like evolve, because I think I agree with John. I think that's a sort of,
because you don't believe in the dinosaurs.
No, well, I believe in dinosaurs, but I don't necessarily believe in coaches evolving all the time. I think I believe in coaches telling a great story about how their career has changed, and that tends to be coaches that occupy prominent positions. What I will say about Frank, and this is where I agree with you, I think for the first 4 or 5 games of Tottenham season, every performance looked different, and not just in terms of quality, but personnel. The way they attacked, the way they defended, the way they progressed the ball, there were variations, and that stretched back into preseason too. And that's kind of that's a facility that's an aspect of kind of a new coach coming in, perhaps, and trying out what works in real time in competitive games. But also, I think if you compare that to Ange Postecoglou's first probably 2 or 3 months, every performance was kind of the same. In a lot of really positive ways, but there are far more recognizable tenets to all of them. There were many more threads that bound them. So I think that was encouraging, and I think for the Tottenham fan base, I think despite the Europa League win, last season pretty miserable. And so if there's a surge of optimism this season, it's not necessarily about winning games, scoring goals, being third in the table. It's just about boxing a little smarter. And I think there's a little bit more forgiveness for bad performances if you can kind of understand the underlying logic to it. I think what Tottenham fans got sick of last season, and why, for instance, there's an argument about Polinia and sort of some discussion about the improvement in defense, is that there's so many instances in which a turnover in possession would lead instantaneously to sort of like a 4-on-2 against Tottenham. Or some kind of ridiculous numerical mismatch that resulted from a ball carrier running straight through the middle of midfield, not being tackled, not being tactical foul, just being allowed to go. And I think when you have the bar that was so low in that regard, and you see sort of tiny little improvements and just sort of common sense details being added into the mixture, I think people can get carried away with that, but I can completely understand why they do. So I wouldn't necessarily call it evolution at this stage, because I think if you look back at his career, he's already, I mean, some people might already describe that as evolution. If you go from Danish domestic football to the Premier League, or to the English Football League, to the Premier League, now to the Champions League, I mean, you can apply that term if you want to what's already happened there, I think. But I don't know. That's a sort of, it's a legacy term, isn't it? And I think I agree with John. It's like, I think we've become trained to think about managers and epochs, like Ferguson reinventing a team, Pep Guardiola reinventing his style, etc., etc. And I think it's kind of, I think we hoist that onto coaches a bit too quickly.
A lovely story, much like the story I told earlier, John, when I said that N17 was the exclusive postcode for the Tottenham area. Steve Hankey has included N15 here, although I have some truck with this, Steve Hankey, because I did live in N15. And I wouldn't have described that as Tottenham. I would have called it Haringey Green Lanes.
Sure. And I don't care enough to disagree with you about that, actually. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is N17, though, but the Tottenham area more broadly.
Do you want to know something cool? I've got, I moved into a new home recently, and guess what I can see from the view of my window?
The Tottenham Stadium.
I can see Athletic.
Thank God I can't see the Athletic. I can see N15 and N17. I can see the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, just half of it tucked away behind a cluster of trees. And it does look very alien-like on the land.
It's like someone's just dropped it into the middle of a city, isn't it?
It does look like that, yeah.
Do you remember E17?
I do, yeah.
Now.
Baby, if you've got to go away,
I don't think I can take the pain.
Won't you stay another?
Stay
now.
Wow, it's
That
true.
feels quite
They
dated,
were
though, doesn't it?
they were
E17.
named after a postcode.
Yeah, what is it?
Walthamstow.
E17.
It's Walthamstow.
Walthamstow.
That was their
I
first
also lived
album
in
was called
E17.
Walthamstow.
Ah.
Yeah, I lived there as well.
I live in SE17.
You live in SE17. That's quite a different
No,
song, isn't it?
SW17.
Stay now. That's how they sing it down there in SE17. Baby, if you've got to go away,
If you got to go away.
don't say I'll take the pain. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I live in the heart of the Cockney.
Yeah, that's
true.
ironically what people more wolf from Stay.
You live in the middle of like a Guy Ritchie film, by all
That's right.
accounts.
That's what they say. Do you
I
know
dodged
the
the
technical, the official technical definition of whether you are a Cockney or not? Do you know?
That's it, if you were born in the within the sound of Bow Bells.
Within the ringing sound of the bells of Bow Church.
Yeah.
That's true, which is in East London.
Yeah, my brother is technically a Cockney for that reason.
Is he technically?
Yeah.
What if the bells aren't ringing when you're born though?
I think you're a Knockney. I think
Not a
that's
Knockney.
how it works.
David Hockney? No.
You're David Hockney.
The only non-Cockney.
Yeah. Let's do more references that the kids will get. David Hockney, E17, earlier, Seb, what did you say?
The Fonz.
The Fonz.
The Fonz is still at large though.
No,
isn't
he's
he?
not. What, Henry Winkler?
Yeah.
No, Henry
He's in
Winkler's
lots of
alive,
things.
but the Fonz isn't. The Fonz,
Yeah, but
the
like,
Fonz,
he
the
is
character.
the Fonz.
No,
isn't
I know he is,
Come
but
on.
obviously the Fonz.
He embodied that.
He's very good in Barry. Did you watch Barry?
Barry?
Yeah.
No. What's Barry?
I don't know. You decide whether I'm telling the truth or not. It sounds like it's not real.
Yeah.
It is.
Is it set in Wales? Is it Barry?
It's Barry. Yeah.
Barry.
No,
May I
it's not.
interject and make a production suggestion at this point with 10 minutes left of Seb's time?
Yeah.
I think I'd much rather hear Seb talking about Dortmund.
I think.
Bayern.
Not the Fonz.
I don't know. I consider you one of the best.
I think I can bring something to both, actually, Steve.
Preeminent.
I think Seb's enjoying himself is going to stay a little bit longer. I don't know. What do you
No,
think?
I am enjoying myself, but I can't stay on a bit
that
longer.
was my concern.
Yeah,
So,
I would love to, but I
got to go away.
I don't think I can take the pain.
All right, we've only got Seb for 10 more minutes because.
Do you remember?
the
Do you remember
schedule.
when it was like an FA Cup third round game and Alan Shearer wore this massive parka, and someone green screened him into the video for Stay by E17?
I did not remember that. I'm going to have to find that.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The glory days of the internet.
Alan Shearer, also the recipient of that meme, which is like, what happens if Alan Shearer turns up with a full head of hair on Match of the Day? Do we have a plan for that? But we should do the same for me. Maybe one day I'll turn up with a full head of hair. Do we have a plan for that?
Just a laugh, point and laugh, I would say, and then go, you've clearly had a hair transplant.
How was your trip to Turkey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alan Shearer really owns his look, though. Like, I can't really. Yeah. I mean, he's had limited hair for such a long time. Limited and now none for such a long time. He really looks good. You're lucky. You're both lucky, actually. I think if honestly. I've had very, very short hair once, and I went from when I was a teenager, 14, 15 years old, I had shoulder length, long hair. I was trying to look like Kurt Cobain, but my hair's so thick that I just looked like Brian May instead. Yeah. Anyway, I went to the barber.
Brian May to add to our list of references.
I went to the barbers, but because I'd been growing my hair genuinely for 3 years, and I was 15. I'd never been to the barbers on my own before. The last time I went, I was 12 years old. I went with my mother, presumably. I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know what the numbers meant. So I asked for a number 4 because I thought that sounded quite long.
That is quite long.
This is not long. Number 4. I thought a number 4 was like my hair length now. No,
well, scissor cut there.
A number 4 is with razors. It's with razors, and they just no questions asked. They just razored all of my hair off, and I was.
Well, you asked for it.
Yeah, I was horrified.
Clippered rather than razor.
They
right?
clippered. Sorry, yeah, they didn't razor. They didn't razor my hair off. I didn't go
out.
to Sweeney Todd. We'll throw that one in as well. Anyway, why am I saying this?
We're going to talk about Bayern and Dortmund while Seb's still here because we've now only got 8 minutes.
All right, fine.
Or the Fonz, one or the other.
Well, let's have a break first.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've only got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Enjoy these adverts. Hey, do you like those? They were good. I like them. I didn't hear any of them. Anyway, we've only got Seb for another 8 minutes. So let's ask Jon a couple of questions and then say goodbye to Seb. No, we'll keep Seb here. Seb, are Bayern Munich the best side in Europe, because of course they are top of the Bundesliga, which is not usually a surprise. They're 4 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund, who they play this weekend, so that's going to be an exciting game. I watched that one actually. They've won every game so far this season, a 10 fixture hot streak, which I guess the most surprising thing about that is that Borussia Dortmund are only 4 points behind them. That seems very surprising to me. So what's going on? Why are they so good this season? And do they have the potential to be currently the best club in Europe? What do you think?
I think they're in the conversation. I don't think I'd be definitive about that in October, but there are a lot of things working for them, particularly their attack. I think their attack since Luis Diaz arrived, has become so interesting. Particularly obviously we kind of generally think of Bayern Munich as being a front foot team, lots of possession, trapping oppositions inside their own defensive third. I think the intricacy of Bayern's football has really improved, the movement between all of those attacking players. So Diaz, Harry Kane, Serge Gnabry, who's playing as well as he has done in quite a few years now. Michael Olise, he seems to get better with every touch. You're also seeing some of those players contribute in other areas of the pitch. So I think we spoke about this last time, but Kane and Gnabry have started taking the ball off the goalkeeper in between their centre halves, which is really interesting. And the whole attacking structure looks so fluid. And if you get the chance, I mean, it's a funny thing to say, but actually Bayern are very, very dangerous on the counter-attack in the Bundesliga, which you wouldn't expect to say because you'd think most teams would be very, very cautious and camp behind the ball. But one of the themes has been just these sweeping, elegant, precise moves that have gone sort of 80 yards in 5, 6, 7 seconds and ended with Diaz or Kane really punishing an opponent. And the football is very efficient. And more so because Jamal Musiala isn't there. And when Musiala went down with an ankle injury in the Club World Cup, I think a lot of people thought, right, well, kind of there goes Bayern's season, because previously, if Musiala wasn't playing, Bayern weren't really creating chances from central positions. They became very horseshoe-like. They became very dependent on thrust from their fullbacks, which when Alphonso Davies got hurt, became another problem. And yet they've started this season with so much expression and freedom, and it's as if they're emerging from whatever's gone on over the last 3 or 4 years, where they were kind of this team stuck between eras, where they had, iconic players moving towards the end of their contracts and towards the end of their worth, where they had a few full starts under different coaches. So always Julian Nagelsmann, but also Thomas Tuchel. And there's a lot of noise around the club, a lot of arguments, a lot of discussion about who should be staying, who wasn't, transfer activity, transfer failings. And, the summer featured a lot of that too. There's a lot of discontent about missing Florian Wirtz. Max Ebel, the board member for sport, faced a lot of criticism from the German media, as he did again when Nick Voldemade moved to Newcastle. He's accused of being quite cheap and being myopic in not paying the fee that Stuttgart wanted. And yet, they look absolutely fantastic. The only thing I'd say, Joe, is that they're quite thin at first team level. So whilst their first 11 is great, I think if you were to take pretty much any member of that front four out, and potentially someone like Joshua Kimmich or Jonathan Tah, David Mikano, I think the team would really, really suffer. So I don't necessarily think their second tier is that strong or that deep at the moment, but they're going to be a match for anybody if everybody stays fit. So really, really interesting. Also, you mentioned Dortmund. Dortmund haven't lost in the Bundesliga since March.
Wow.
Under Niko Kovac. Yeah, it's really interesting because Kovac came in and a lot of Dortmund fans, a lot of people in the German media said, hey, this guy is not really a match for what we consider to be Borussia Dortmund style football, which has never really updated from the style Jurgen Klopp left behind. Yeah. Gegenpressing, emotional football. Whereas Kovac he's a defense first person with a counter. And he's big on defensive structure. He likes his players. He doesn't really allow his players freedom without the ball. And yet it's worked. He's made them much more hardworking. They've lost, what's the right way of describing this? They've lost some of their entitlement, Borussia Dortmund. I think if you go back a year, then you'd see a team that were famously brittle away from home, a little bit arrogant, thought they're probably a little bit better than they really were, I think. And they certainly suffered under Nuri Sahin, who did some interesting things with their attack, made them quite watchable, but ultimately really, really unstable. Had one of the worst rest defenses I've seen in the Bundesliga. would keep John awake for nights on end, I'm sure, if you watch that. But Kovac has made them much harder to beat, and I don't think they're spectacular. But he's also brought out like some of the best football in Karim Adeyemi, who's this he's a very odd footballer. Like, a lot of people know Adeyemi, and depending on when you watch him, you think world-class player, right? But he's very capricious. And he's always gone, certainly during his time in Dortmund, he's had 6 weeks of great form, looked fantastic, and then dropped off again for 6 to 8 weeks. But Kovac has him playing in a really simple way, where he's playing on instinct. He's not trying to do too much with the ball. He's not making bad decisions. He's really only a counter-attacking piece that, used in a way that emphasizes his amazing acceleration, his goal-scoring ability, his finishing. Guirassy played very well. Julian Brandt's been revived. Felix Metsch is playing well. And also, most importantly, Dortmund for this game have their 3 first-choice defenders back. So Vladimir Anton, Nico Schlotterbeck, and Niklas Süle. And that's been another problem, because those are 3 very good players, and they've so rarely had the opportunity to play them together when they're all in form. And they're all approaching something like that now, even though Süle's just back from long-term injury, ditto Schlotterbeck. But it's interesting, and I think it suits Dortmund. I would favour Bayern Munich, but I think the nature of the game suits Dortmund and Kovac.
So if Dortmund win, it'll be with counter-attacking goals, you think?
Yeah, I think so. If you look back at what's a good example? If you look back at the Dortmund performance in Mainz a couple of weeks ago, and you just have a look at the goals they scored there, and focus on the role Adeyemi played in that. He's this very dynamic component within the Dortmund formation that allows them to move up the pitch very, very quickly, and in a way in which most Bundesliga clubs have a real difficulty in handling. And I think the same would be true of Bayern, because if there is a weakness, and this is one that Kompany inherited, it is that vulnerability to transitions. When they lose the ball, they're not always that solid. They don't always deal with losses of possession that well. They're perhaps not cynical enough at times. And you could absolutely see this Dortmund side not necessarily winning, but getting something. And they've got a pretty good record. They drew this fixture last year. They won it the year before. So they haven't actually lost a Bundesliga game in Munich for 3 seasons now.
Okay.
So they're built to be resilient. I don't think this will be a kind of a...
That's like me.
You are also built to be resilient in a different way, but like this isn't a Dortmund side. I hope I'm not tempting fate. They're not. It's not going to be one of those nights when they're 3 down after 15 minutes.
Sure.
And no doubt, if they are, that will be clipped up and pelted at me on the internet. But so be it.
I simply can't wait. Now I know you have to go, Seb.
Yeah.
Because you are, as discussed, a proper serious
Important
journalist
person.
now. Important
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
You use
My
words
time
like,
is more valuable than ever before.
Yeah, it's very valuable. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not even doing anything. I'm just leaving to make a point.
No, I got that impression. We started a little bit late, and Seb suddenly couldn't make the whole.
It was a power move. Like, it was kind of, hey, back in the day, you used to have to tolerate this, not now. Right?
Sure.
Yes, that's how you have to deal with Joe Devine. I always have my chair slightly higher just to be eye to eye with him and be like, wait a minute.
And yet your head is still below mine.
That's only because of the hair.
the thinning hair. Anyway, before I let you go,
yes,
Mr. President, can you tell me just briefly why a poo emoji got a Werder Bremen player in trouble?
Right. Yes. So this is during the Werder Bremen HSV game in the Frauen Bundesliga on Saturday. Now, Hamburg and Bremen, like the cities, have a long-term, centuries-old rivalry. The sports clubs have a rivalry too, which is very long-standing. The Nord Derby that they compete in. Now, this was actually the very first game between the 2 women's side at Frauen Bundesliga level. HSV got promoted last season, so it was the first fixture. And the atmosphere was great. I think it was like 38,000 people sold out the Weserstadion. Terrific. And then at the end, one of the Werder Bremen players took a sign. Werder Bremen won the game 2-0. One of the Werder Bremen players took a sign from a young child in the crowd that had the HSV rhomboid, a club crest, in the shape of that emoji.
Oh no!
And was sort of waving it around during and it's like one of those things, but it's a derby. It's just what it is. But people got upset. Unfortunately, she received some threats and some really unpleasant behavior online. So she ended up apologizing, said, "Look, I just got caught up in it. in the occasion of the day, didn't mean to offend anybody, all that kind of stuff. So
right.
Hopefully that's the end of it. I don't think people should be threatening someone for that. But
I thought it would be funnier than that, to be honest, because it's got the word poo in the question. But that's actually
not
funny,
that's pretty much the limit of it.
Although you know what it's like. Get carried away, wave some poo around. We've all done it. That's me. Have we? We've all done that, right? I've done that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. We've all done that.
Yeah.
All right, Seb. What have you got to do? You're doing some busy, important work, is it? Or?
It's busy, important, like big boy shit, you know.
Waving big boy shit.
Waving big boy shit around. All right.
I can't even, talk to you about it anymore.
Don't worry, that's
important.
That's fine. I love you.
I love you too. I miss you.
I've left the Zoom call, but I can still hear him in my ears because that's not how it works here, is it? So I wanted to say I love you and then just quit immediately.
I miss you.
He's still there. He's still here. Please end the call. Please end the call.
I wish I'd never left. Take me back. Bye, everybody.
See you, buddy. I think buying a pretty tactically diverse, John.
You're a smart guy. You're a smart guy. Why do you think that? Why do you think that?
Because you just said that when I asked you what question to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Seb touched on this a little bit, but I think that's what's really stood out for me. I think.
Can I guess though?
Yeah, sure.
Because like often you tacticos, you use like big words and difficult language to gatekeep and guard your environment.
I don't think tactical diversity is gatekeeping language.
Let me just tell you, once I had a conversation with a friend of ours. I don't know why it's very offensive to call him a friend of yours. He's a friend of ours. And he said to me, this thing that this team are doing is pretty complicated. I'm putting together something on it. And I jokingly said, I'll tell you how it works. I didn't know anything about the team. And then in 2 minutes, I explained exactly the truth to him. And he agreed with me that it was real, My story,
I don't know.
It was supposed to be funny. It turned into a brag. My point was more to say that generally speaking, I believe tactics is one of two things, okay? The first thing is it's the numbers that you line up in, yeah? The second thing is it's that you can either go around the outside or you can cut in when you're a winger.
Yeah.
Sure. And there's nothing else. In possession.
There's so many things that you said there which I found insulting. Shall I go through them all?
Can you cut the first bit out, Steve, of that and just keep the tactics is two thing? That's better, that bit.
Sure.
Thanks. That bit's a good bit.
I'll see what happens.
Anyway, I believe the reason that Bayern Munich is so tactically diverse is because Vincent Kompany is a great coach. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah? Why do you think then?
Well, I think at the moment, we're like the tactical meta.
Yeah.
Can I say that word?
Well, yeah, I know what it means. Meta.
When I say meta,
you mean what people are thinking and doing right now?
Yeah, as in like the way to win the game, right? The way that teams are trying to win games.
It's a video game word.
It's shifting. Okay?
What's the meta in the video game?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's the easiest way to get to the end of the level, or like to
I would say that is very gatekeeping. I'm not going to lie, because I had no idea what.
Well, we've just explained it.
Steve's never
what
played
we've
a video
done there
game.
is we've opened out knowledge to other people,
right?
In an I think accessible.
That's
way.
true. It's the opposite of gatekeeping. It's gating.
It's
keep
gating.
It's opening the
welcoming.
Gate. Yeah, it's sort of being a kind of lollipop person.
Yeah, I see myself as the lollipop lady of the tactics world. I stand in front of the road, in front of cars in the road.
You look great in one of those.
With
hats.
all those people driving along with their exclusionary language.
Do you think?
And I say, wait, stop. We've got some children here who need to arrive from one point of knowledge to another.
The children are the audience.
That's right, yeah.
Can I say also, Steve, interestingly, didn't interject to tell us that Lollipop Lady was probably a bit exclusive.
Yeah,
I think people from overseas wouldn't know what a Lollipop Lady, or we should say a Lollipop person.
We gatekeeping again.
I think we're also gendering a role here, because it is fully possible for people who are not ladies, and I've met many of them, to be lollipop people. A person.
Wielder.
A lollipop wielder. For people overseas, a lollipop
personnel.
Lollipop personnel in the UK, traditionally known as lollipop ladies, were the people that would stand in the middle of the road with a stop sign, and they also wore a big yellow high-vis jacket in order for small children to cross the road safely near schools. Yeah? I'm sure they have versions of this in other countries. Maybe they call them stop sign people, or
One more?
road safety officers. Do you like that?
That's quite good, actually.
My wife asks me not to use the word lady,
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
generally speaking.
I apologise for any people I offended in my naming conventions.
Yeah.
So in North America, crossing guard.
A crossing guard. that feels very... They've got to cut that.
Yeah, no,
hold
100%,
on,
yeah.
hold on. A crossing guard, you say?
Yes.
Maybe they're part of the...
I mean...
Something got cut!
in New Zealand,
Something possibly got cut. We don't know. We don't know.
in New Zealand, school road patrol.
School road patrol. Patrol. Now, I like
in the
that.
dog world, Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol in the
Yep.
dog world, yeah. In the cat world, Claw Patrol.
Also Paw Patrol.
Also Paw
Very
Patrol.
confusing.
Yeah, in the
Whale world.
oh yeah, it's
Flipper Patrol.
Flipper Patrol. Flipper Patrol. Do you know I can do a fantastic out of this world impression of Free Willy? Do you want to hear it? Do you know the film Free Willy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Again, this is an episode of references.
To bring the references up to date, let's
Yeah.
go with Free Willy, which was released in what? 95?
93, I think.
93.
What about Free Willy 4? That was more recent. Anyway, here's what Free Willy sounds like. You ready? Now imagine there's the water.
It was 93. I'm very impressed
Thank
with
you. It's lapping away at the side there, and there's the little American boy. He's going Willy, Free Willy. You know, he's saying that, and then
Jump, Willie, jump!
jump, Willy, jump. Okay, and here's my sound. I can hear the sound of my family, my whale family, just on the other side. Now that's pretty good. Here's mine. It's pretty good, huh?
Yeah,
That's not
I
bad.
think so.
not bad.
It's as good an impression of an orca that I've heard in a long time.
Something got cut. No, I think that's staying
That's
in.
staying in.
That whale bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
We were talking about tacticos being exclusionary.
Oh
and
my
I
God,
think-
they're so exclusionary.
Lollipop. Yeah, because you know the sign is like a lollipop.
Something definitely got cut. And it wasn't us.
There were some false alarms before, but Steve Hankey just dropped a doozy in the small room over
Yeah.
there, and that's
his
cut.
job, right?
I know.
We're allowed to be cuttable.
We're supposed to be cuttable.
He's who cuts the cutsman.
We're cute and cuttable. When
Cuts
he does
person,
it,
cuts person.
oh my God, that was offensive, Steve. Good Lord. And I want to personally apologize to all people that are alive in the world, but not the dead. Now, what are we talking about?
Tacticos.
Oh, they're so exclusionary.
Yeah, and I think that's often the case. But I think that I've tried to make a career of making tactics accessible to people.
Of keeping it exclusive.
Keeping other
to
people out.
yourself.
Tactical concepts for tactical people. That's always been my motto.
Yeah. What are we talking about? Bayern.
Oh yeah,
Munich.
Bayern, but
that's
being
right, yeah.
tactically diverse.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
So the meta shifting.
Right.
Sorry.
What's
for-
that again?
Yeah. But I think what we're starting to see now, it used to be, as Seb was saying, you expect elite teams to possess the ball a lot, but also to have high territorial dominance. So they want
I'm
to.
just going to put my finger up every time you say
So-
something that is
It's
exclusionary.
exclusionary.
But I won't stop you.
But what I mean by tactical.
Don't explain
high
it. No.
territorial
Don't
dominance is-
explain it. Keep going.
But I've just said that my life's work is dedicated to
Okay,
this.
fine.
But yeah, just keeping the ball high up the pitch. So
Right.
pushing the opponent deep into their own penalty.
Quite
box,
easy to
essentially.
say, actually.
And the reason why that's becoming more difficult is for a number of reasons. One is that these teams are finding it harder to defend in transition, something that Seb mentioned about last season.
That's two.
Yeah, so defending when the ball comes back the other way. So if you're
Right.
high up the pitch, you leave a lot of space open. That can
That's
be
quite easy to
problematic,
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so, but it's much easier to say defending in transition.
Of course. I'll give you that one.
Imagine
Yeah.
how long I'd be around if I had to define all of my terms all the time.
It would be hard
It'd
if,
be
if
even
people
more
had to understand what you were
boring than it
saying.
already is.
It would be.
And the other thing that's happening is that a lot of teams are going a little bit more aggressive out of possession, so they're going man to man rather than using zonal structures.
Oh, there's three. There it is. Buzzword.
And as a result, that is meaning that opponents who are playing against those sorts of systems have to generally play a bit more direct to get through the first lines of pressure because the space is now behind the pressure rather than in front of the pressure, which is what it used to be in a zonal system.
Normal words. No, we're saying
Oh,
it through
yeah,
there.
okay,
Yeah,
nice.
well done. Okay, yeah.
And as a result, that means that games become more transitional. But you can't have that. Because
I haven't
you've already
overrated
got it.
that's already in there as three.
And so what we're starting to see from a lot of the elite teams now is rather than having this one size fits all approach, which worked so well for Guardiola for all those years, for example, they're having to play in different ways. And they're having to play in a different way that almost works against the intentions of what the way they want to play is, right? Which is control, ball possession, high up the pitch. Got too excited.
John's pulling his microphone around. Yeah.
You have to be able to play more direct. You have to be more physical, and that sort of works against the intention of like having high tech players who often small space, very good in small spaces at holding the ball. Like you can put the finger up for that.
I've put the finger up for high tech.
Yeah, high technique. I don't know. You know what I mean?
That's like high church, techers, isn't it?
Techers isn't exclusionary, is it?
Techers is.
I'm including all of the kids.
That's accessible. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, it's exclusionary of the elderly. But they excluded themselves, let's be honest.
They're not listening.
No, they're not.
Although they've missed a cracking episode, haven't they? With
That's true.
With all the references we made to their era.
They would have loved this episode. Yeah. Actually, surprisingly, there's quite a number of 60 plus who listen to this.
Really?
Episode. Yeah, there is. It always surprises me when I look at our YouTube analytics and I go, hundreds of thousands of people who are clearly retired are watching our videos.
I was in a pub in Earlsfield the other day, and it was the sort of pub where I expected to get recognised.
Right.
But I got recognised by a guy who I really didn't expect to come up to me and say that he liked my stuff. Because he was
an elderly?
Yeah, he must have been in his 50s.
Wow. I've never been recognised by someone in their 50s before.
And it was weird. I was like, no, you don't recognise me. You don't like my stuff.
Right.
You're in the wrong place.
Turns out he was just your mother's accountant.
It's my dad.
It was your dad.
It's like, Dad, leave me alone. What are you doing in London? You don't live here.
Why are you bothering me in Earlsfield, Dad?
Yeah, my dad doesn't like my content. Let's be honest.
Well, that's
but essentially, so teams now have to sort of get a balance between doing the high possession stuff, but also having the ability to play direct. And I think that's what Bayern have done this season. They've added elements where, rather than trying to possess the ball high up the pitch, they're sitting a little bit deeper and playing with a bit more transition, a bit more direct.
Right.
And they're getting the benefit for it.
Let me ask you this, though. Is Vincent, because this is how normal people like me care about it, is Vincent Kompany
a good or a bad coach?
No. Is he like, because if we're talking about Bayern as potentially, even in the conversation, to be one of the best teams in Europe at the moment, obviously they're a big football team. They've got a lot of money. They can buy lots of players. You know, they dominate their league. But I don't know. There was a lot of excitement about Vincent Kompany when he first became a manager. He's got the pedigree playing career to match. He played under a lot of coaches. When you look at the coaches who are the best in the world at the moment, his career sort of matches in many ways, or mirrors in many ways theirs. Is he going to be the next best coach in the world? Is it possible?
I think he'll be the next Manchester City manager.
Really?
I think he will. But whether or not that translates to being the best manager in the world, I don't know. But I think he does have those things that you talked about. He has the intangible stuff. He knows how to work dressing rooms. He has charisma and the ability to get players to follow him because he's played at the highest level and achieved everything.
He was also a centre-back who was a very physical player who also was like an elite player, and he played under coaches that asked a lot of him. Like, he's clearly an intelligent person.
And I think there's also something in the fact that a lot of coaches who, when you're like your Xavis and I mean Iniesta isn't coaching yet, but like when those sorts of players go into coaching, there's a sense where you get where they're just like, just do what I did.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but the reason why you are who you are is because people can't do that, right? Coaching is about often trying to get. It should be about nurturing talent, and it is, but it's also about trying to get more out of players who can't do maybe some of the elite stuff that someone like Xabi, etc. These managers can do. Whereas
someone said that about Thierry Henry the other day. Who was that? We were talking to a friend, was it?
I don't know, but I think and that's another good example, right? Whereas I think. And I'm sure Thierry Henry does some fantastic analysis where he can talk through like what it means to be a striker and the sort of technical qualities that you need and the decision making, etc. I think when you get someone like Kompany who, he's not like a high technique player in that sense, right? He's not sort of like mercurial talent. I think you also get the buy-in from the players from that as well, because he'll have an understanding that what's going on further down the pitch is something that it's not something that he's often been involved in as well. And I think that's worth something. But on top of that, I think bringing someone like René Maric in as an assistant coach is a smart move from him, because René Maric is a guy who was writing on Spielverlagerung, which is the German tactics website that was started a long time ago.
Can I pause you? I think you have to say it. Spielverlagerung.
Yeah. Do you know what it means? Spielverlagerung.
Yes, you've told me before.
Oh, okay.
That's what it means.
Okay, yeah.
No, what does it mean?
I think it means crossfield ball or something.
Right. It's certainly a finger up on my list of inaccessible.
Yeah, that is exclusionary language. I'll give you that.
German.
But René was in academia, but he sort of went through the coaching school of things. Did a lot of the sort and Spielverlagerung influenced an incredible amount of people in terms of educating them about tactical ideas. And there's many people who've written for that website or who've been benefited by the website who are working in the coaching game today. Spielverlagerung. And Rene is one of the sort of granddaddies of that group.
I think it's Granddaddy-O.
Granddaddy-O or grand person of that group, I should say. Sorry, Steve.
Group,
and I think getting him on board is really smart because, he has a lot of we've talked about maybe the meta shifting.
Right.
He's going to be the kind of person who's ahead of that and so can add those kind of ideas in to someone like Vincent Kompany.
Do you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing you sort of try and make the pathway for yourself. You're like, there's a guy who's a great writer in the past.
The Spielverlagerung guys are so much better at
and now
this
you're
than
like,
me,
What about, hey Vincent, have you ever thought about hiring Granddaddy-O YouTuber?
Jon Mackenzie.
Jon Mackenzie.
It's disgusting.
I think it was me, by the way, who was talking about Thierry Henry with you.
Oh, it was
on Monday when we had lunch.
I fundamentally disagree.
I actually wish I hadn't said it now. I'm sorry, Steve. Yeah. Was it you?
Yeah, I think when we were having lunch, if you recall.
I mean, it is an Arsenal player.
He knows ball, as the children say.
Got techers.
Got to get one young person's reference in there, haven't you? Do you know ball?